Are there important questions that you are surprised that you don't get asked about Berkshire's financials or businesses? And if so, what is the question you would ask yourself?
Well, Andrew, first of all, I will say we got a lot of compliments on changing the format. I mean, it worked, and that's why we're continuing it. So it's worked very well. And that applause is for you, not for me, and you deserve it. It really has improved the quality of the questions in terms of having a Berkshire-related and having a system of weeding them out without us being the ones that do the weeding out. Now, I've given Charlie time to think of what the answer to that question is going to be, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Well, I don't have a lot of comment about things that should be done differently at Berkshire. I think it is quite interesting that we got into BYD because BYD is surfing along on the developing edge of new technology, and that is not, we have always bragged about avoiding that. Isn't that a fair statement?
That's fair.
And yet here we are. I think it's because we've shown some capability for learning, and I think the BYD investment is going to work out very well, and I think it'll work out very well in a way that gives great pleasure to all of us shareholders, because I think they're going to help solve some significant problems of the world. And that place is, I spoke with pride about Kiewit. They tried harder. They were more self-disciplined. That's the way I feel about BYD. And it's a pleasure to associate with such people. And in my life, those are the people with whom I've achieved the most. So as far as I'm concerned, we found our own kind, except they're better. And we may do more of that. And we wouldn't have felt confident enough to go into venture capital typically with just a bright young man with an idea, no matter how brilliant.
Not me.
No, I wouldn't either. But BYD had won its spurs in life by the time we found it. They had accomplished things that struck me as almost impossible to do, and yet they'd done them. And so I don't think that's the last unusual thing that Berkshire will do, and the last one that'll work. And I think the Burlington Northern acquisition, when we did it, we knew it would be better for their shareholders than it was for ours, because after all, they were getting into Berkshire. But we also thought it was good for our shareholders. And why should we care that it was better for theirs if it was satisfactory for us? And I think that will happen again too. That's our kind of a culture, Middle Western, and constantly improving the place. And with Mid-American and Burlington, we're getting a fair amount of engineering into Berkshire, which of course I like. And so yeah, I hope you people are comfortable with the way things are going, because I think they'll keep going in the same direction.
Yeah, I think they will keep going in the same direction. But to answer your question on that, Andrew, I would probably ask the question, can you keep using all of the capital you generate effectively, for a very long time? And the answer, I think, to that is that even we will see more things, and we will do some more of this. There comes a point where the numbers get big enough that it gets extraordinarily hard to do things that add value. I mean, if you just play out the numbers, you could see where in 10 or 15 years, not only the capital that's already accumulated, but the generation of capital and everything would make it very hard to do things that are essentially creating more than $1 of value per dollar invested. A portion of the money may be able to be used that way, and likely would be used in the kind of businesses we're in. There comes a point where the numbers get too big, and actually our history is a curve that approaches that point all the time. It's turned out to be that now I think we can go a lot further than I would have thought 30 years ago. I mean, it's developed that way, and partly that's because we see things that I never would have thought we would have seen 30 years ago. But there is a limit, and there will come a time when we cannot in my view, there'll come a time when we cannot intelligently use 100% of the capital that we develop internally. And then we'll do something that's whatever's in the best interest of the shareholders will be done at that point.
I think we will get into Berkshire on the investment side, probably starting sooner than many of you expect. People who have some promise of being, well, if not as good as Warren,
Maybe
a decent approximation, and in some cases with abilities that Warren lacks. In other words, it won't be all negative. And so I'm really quite optimistic. I can see the reason I think we will succeed at that is Warren never looks twice at anybody who isn't a little eccentric, which of course is what you're looking at when you look up here.
Living proof, yeah.